qu'est-ce qu'on nous a fait?
Hey everybody, this is StageCraft. My name is Alex.
And my name is Don.
And we are joined in this episode by...
Hi, I'm JC from the Vinyl Vault.
On WERA.
Yes.
So, JC, how long have you been doing your show?
I have been on WERA. I'm currently in my third year at WERA. And 2 years previous to that, I also did work on the internet, on our internet radio station.
What has been, if you had to pick a highlight or two or three, what would you say is like the highlight? Have you had any like I'm famous or semi-famous moments?
I don't know if I'd say that. I would say that I've met a lot of my heroes, and they know of me now, which is weird for me. And I also get people reaching out to me to submit their music to play on air, and it's been global. It's not just in the local area, which is what I would expect, but people from all around the world, which is really, really cool.
When you think about what's left for, are there goals? Is there like a checklist of like, I want to meet this person, I want to see this show, I want to feature this artist? Is there anything on your list of goals that you want to accomplish? That's
really hard to answer. I love live shows, and I don't get out to enough of them, which I kick myself constantly for that. I just am in the constant need for meeting local legends and seeing them perform. It's that never ending goal of more and more and more for me. Gosh, every single time one of the bands, from the 80s or 90s, that was local legends, decide to kind of get back together and re-record, I'm like, I'm on that bus. I'm going to watch that.
Was meeting Don on your list of people?
He was my first guest on my show.
I got checked off. Yes,
very early on.
Yeah. Was that what when you started your show? Mm-hmm. What was what did you hope to achieve? What did you hope to accomplish? What did you hope it would be? What was in your mind at that time?
Honestly, the decision was one of extreme impulse to have a radio show in the first place. A couple of my friends had radio shows, and I kept giving them recommendations of music to play and things that they could do and themes that they should have. And finally, one of my friends says, "You should just have your own show." Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, I should do that. And so I started. But when I went on to WERA, I wanted to go a step further and start doing interviews with some of the people that I find compelling in the local music community. And I did that pretty hard for a while. And then I reeled it back a little bit, just because, life gets a hold of you sometimes. But I want to continue on that path. And I also want to go into TV media and have broadcast shows with live music from the local area. I think that would be really a great way to introduce more people to the amazing music scene we've got here.
Yeah, that is good.
Do you see yourself as more of a Carson Daly or like more of like a Johnny Carson? Or is it more like Solid Gold?
Yeah.
Or Bill Maher.
Or Bill Maher.
I would say I am just me. But when it comes to the performances, I almost see it like an Austin City Limits kind of an idea, where, I do a short interview in the beginning to introduce the band and what they're going to be playing, and then give them time at the end to, talk about any shows that they have coming up or new releases that are coming out. But it's mostly just going to be the music and watching them play.
Do they do it live on your show?
I'm still trying to work that out. There are challenges, a lot of challenges to doing a live show.
Yeah, especially in a small booth.
Yeah. Well, if it's video, it's going to be in the bigger room.
Yeah.
But the tough part comes on the audio side. And recording audio with the equipment that we have there in the studio can be rather challenging when considering a live show.
Yes, you're listening to StageCraft, WERA FM.
Hi, I'm JC from the Vinyl Vault.
The studio isn't necessarily set up for live music. It's not super conducive to that.
No, it isn't. Although, I mean, you could scope back to when basically there was just a live room mic picking up everything.
That's true.
And people got further and closer depending on how loud they were. And just play it like that.
Yeah, go back to old school.
Exactly.
Not a bad idea.
It's very simple. It works out. Have you been getting cooperation from the powers that be?
They're pretty excited about the idea. Another thing that I'm looking into doing, I want to do it this year, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be ready yet, is doing either a series or a documentary around the Fort Reno concert series, and historically what it's meant to the area, and musicians that have gotten their start there, as well as just showing the bands that are currently playing. I think that's exciting too. It's a completely different way of recording. It's going to be out on in the field, but I'm pretty excited about that. And everybody that I talk to about these show ideas, they're pretty excited about the concept of it. So hopefully I'm able to get the support I need to do it.
Yeah. Now,
May I put a quick plug in?
Sure.
If you are interested in the Fort Reno concert series, there's an interview with Amanda Mackay that we did. Just had to throw that in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That was a great interview, by the way. I listened.
Oh, thank you. I'm
Yeah.
so glad you liked it. Yeah, she's just absolutely amazing. She's. I was trying to get another. Cause I would say kindly, she can sometimes be somewhat curmudgeonly, but in a great way, in a very great way. And I've always wanted to get her and another curmudgeon together to just rah rah rah. I think that'd be fun.
She's been on my show, and I get along with her because I relate to that. I guess you call it curmudgeonly side of her, but I really relate to.
She takes no BS is a better way to say it.
Yes.
She has no time for BS.
Yes, sure. I think that's
Which
perfect.
Is the way no one should be.
Exactly.
Life is far too short to take any S from anybody.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Although I know one of the things from the interview she said, because you said you wanted to, looking for new talent and stuff like that. She said mostly a lot of bands there or groups there or acts there, I'll just say acts in general, are on the older side.
Yeah, I've noticed it. I've paid attention to who plays, and I think that a lot of them are coming from, having either been involved with that kind of golden era of punk in DC, either the 80s or 90s, or even early 2000s, or they grew up watching that. So you're talking about older millennials and Gen X. But I think a lot of it is a lack of awareness for a lot of the younger bands, I think.
Of Fort Reno?
Yeah, a lot of the some of the people that I've talked to that are newer, younger bands, kind of thinking of the Gen Z groups, aren't necessarily as aware of the history and what Fort Reno can do for them. So I'd love to see some of those acts go on stage there because they have such a vibrant following.
Which would be, your show could showcase a lot of that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Now, as a content provider for a show, how do you look at it? I mean, how do you view that in terms of like, okay, you have the studio there, WERA, and you provide the content. What kind of relationship should there be? between the administration and the content providers or producers or whatever you want to call them. Yes, you're listening to StageCraft, WERA FM.
Hi, I'm JC from the Vinyl Vault. From my perspective, I think that the biggest thing for content creators, creatives in general tend to be a zesty bunch of people, and we're all interesting cats in our own way. And I think the biggest thing is to have kind of an open communication and open dialogue, and kind of seeing what they do as a service that they provide for the content creators for the station, because the content is what brings listeners in. They either want to watch the shows on TV, or they want to listen to the radio, or many of the several podcasts that we're now starting to get involved in. So the content creators are kind of like should be seen as an aspect of somebody that they're providing a service to. Now we need to, just like if you were hailing a taxi or going into a retail store or any situation where you have somebody that's providing a service, you have to behave yourself as well, and work with them and be polite, and treat them respectfully. But also, they need to be there to help take care of your needs
and to take care of your, the tools, your trade.
Yes.
In other words, you being almost like a surgeon, the hospital, if they say, well, we don't have any scalpels today, or our scalpels are all dull.
I love this. I love this metaphor. Zesty content providers, and we're slicing people up.
Right.
Creating an atmosphere that elicits, because when we're talking about a live radio program, right?
Yeah.
You have to be in the moment, and you have to be creative in the moment, right? It's one part improvisation, one part listener, and so having an environment that's conducive to that is super important.
Yeah.
For you, do you record in the booth?
No, I don't. I actually came on board during COVID when it was closed down. So I have a studio at home. It's my basement. I call it the Vinyl Vault. But obviously there's been times when I have had to use their resources, like during a period of time when I was completely refurnishing my studio. It was not conducive to interviews. And so I reached out to the studio, and I reached out to them maybe 3 days in advance, and this was a couple years back. A couple years back, and they worked with me. They said no problem, and I hadn't even been officially sanctified to being using the equipment there, but they set it up for me, allowed me to record. Sent the recording to me so I could edit it. They were really great, but I think it depends on who is the person there, and I know we're kind of changing the way that we do things right now. So I don't know if I could have been able to do that currently, but it was amazing that they were able to do that, because the guests said, hey, we can't come this week, we got to come the next week, and I'm like, my studio is not going to be ready for it.
Yeah. Has anybody put into words changing the way they're doing things right now? I don't quite understand that.
I want to be.
What changes are you privy to that we're not?
What we're
asking?
I don't
'Cause I'm
know.
curious.
I don't know what they're changing, and I've never heard.
Well, there's a podcast studio that they're opening up over at the 4 Mile Run area.
That's true. Yeah.
Oh! I thought you were talking about the station itself.
I think they are. I think that is what JC is inferring.
Yeah, they're.
Oh.
I think one of the things that I would like to help them with is understanding the what and in what frequency to communicate to their creators. because I think that, when you have a complete changeover, some of the legacy things that were occurring may not have, been properly introduced to the new team. So, helping them to understand, what can help us and how we can best be supported will help on both sides, because I think, frustration can come from, not being able to have the conversations that you need as a creator and the resources that you need that you at least used to have. When people are frustrated, their communication style is not necessarily, always, friendly. So I think it can help on the staff side as well, because, then you get these conversations that are more collaborative versus kind of that situation where either yes or no, black or white.
Or stuff's happening to you. Like, here's how it's going to be. Now deal with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
For you, being a content creator, that word is the worst, content creator, right? But can we call you a radio show host? Right?
You may, yes.
What do you feel gets you into the creative headspace in order to put together like a great show? What elements, because some people do respond to tension. My partner's band, they are fighting with each other all the time because they deep down inside think that that's actually helps them be better. Mm-hmm. I don't know why they think that, but it works for them. But for you, like, what makes you be like Don and I? We play rock paper scissors for about an hour and a half before every show.
Yeah,
and that gets us there.
And you always win.
I do.
Damn it!
Undefeated. He throws scissors every time. I don't think he knows any of the other things. What gets you there?
That's a great question. I get excited about engagement, particularly engagement from musicians, people out in the community that are excited about the music that they're hearing, or that are excited about sharing the music that they're playing, or that are excited that their music is being shared. Mm-hmm. For me, because I also provide a service to the community and to the musicians to kind of almost become a matchmaker of matching people between music that they haven't met before and that they'll love.
The Tinder of DC music. That's what you should call yourself.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Swipe right.
We're making the promo for you right here.
Right.
There we go. Who can develop apps?
Yeah. That's a great image, though. There really is. It is true.
Swipe right on this song. Is it right or left? I don't know. Which one?
I have no idea. I've never used it.
We all say that. I don't know which one. I
haven't used it for the last hour or so.
Sorry, go ahead. What gets you in the creative headspace?
Yeah, so I think it's that engagement with listeners, with musicians, but I also, when I get engagement from the staff at the station as well, and other creators that are hosts of their own shows, producers of their own shows. I always get excited when somebody's like, I love your show. And it's another one of the people that have a show on the station. I'm like, I like yours too. We don't get enough situations, I don't think, to be able to have those conversations, but when they occur, they really get me excited. And I think that's what gets me going, is just the knowledge of all of that interaction for me is so important to keeping me going and inspired. And anytime that people are negative or kind of shutting down those positive vibes, or seeing me in a way that's not being what I love to be, which is helpful, and the type of person that gets people excited in a good way, that brings me down too, because that's not who I am.
What do you, so I will share mine if you share yours. Do you, sometimes we get down, sometimes we don't feel like editing the show, or we don't feel like slogging through whatever it is. Because there's the there's the crappy part sometimes, the harder parts. Is there something that you look up at? Is there some memory that you invoke? Is there a person you're like, oh, do it for so and so?
Yeah. So I'm gonna say there's a couple of people. One of them was an early mentor to me, and that was Henry Rollins. I reached out to him because I wanted to do a good job, but I didn't really know what I was doing. And this was very early when I was still on the internet. And he was very supportive. Now, he doesn't really love doing that type of thing, but he will do it for certain people. So he was a really helpful person that inspired me and made me want to be better. Because he did, take the time from his busy schedule to help. The other person is my grandfather, who also had a radio station.
A pirate radio station.
Pirate radio station.
Well, we gotta throw out that legit credential. Come on.
Yep. He had a pirate radio station back during and slightly after, I think, World War II. Just knowing that, he's looking at what I do from wherever he might be. Just kind of loving the idea that I'm continuing in his footsteps in a way, really also makes me want to continue on.
Is he still alive? No.
No, I lost him back in 1994.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. Sounds like a great man.
He was a great man. Very gentle, very shy. But when it came to music, man, he came alive.
What do you want to improve with what you're bringing to the public?
I want to go back into interviews. The tough thing with interviews.
You do that, but you do that now.
Right now I haven't done an interview in a while. I'm working on coordinating one, but I haven't done them in a while.
Can you do a drop? Who are you trying to get it with?
El Cuatro, which is a local band, just released a brand new album on Record Store Day. And Joel, who is a member of that band, is a friend of mine. And I want to bring him and the band on to kind of, get them the notice that they deserve, because it's a great album. But in general, there's a lot of bands that I would love to have on. And I'd love to have conversations with them. But for me, I get, I'm one of those people that feels uncomfortable and like I'm not necessarily doing a great job with interviewing. So it makes it tough for me, but I'm also a perfectionist. So when it's done, I go back to the audio and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much work. So I spend forever, and way more time than is necessary to edit those interviews.
Of course, because everybody does more than necessary because they think that, oh my gosh, I'm going to need a whole lot more to pad this.
Yes. And I'll be listening in my headphones, which most people obviously are not listening on headphones. And they're not going to hear every vocal click and, sibilance and all the other different things that to me are like, oh my gosh, that sounds terrible. Most people aren't going to hear it at the nitpicky level that I do. And I'm like going in with, as a surgeon. And
sure,
editing.
especially with the headphones. So Don turned me off to headphones, and I don't use them at all anymore for exactly that reason, because you're just overly critical.
Yeah.
And they're not consistent in terms of the sound quality that you get. Like, you think you hear something, no one cares. Damn it, I said the F word. So in terms of like your interviewing skills, I doubt that you're bad at it, but is there like something that you do that you're like, oh, there I go again, I did that thing?
Yes, you're listening to StageCraft, WERA FM.
Hi, I'm JC from the Vinyl Vault. I talk a lot. I love having conversations. And as an interviewer, a lot of what you should be doing is listening. And I'll just wax poetic.
Yep.
I will wax poetic at any response they have. I want to have a conversation about it. And I just go, I just go nuts. And I'll listen back to myself and I'm like, I just spoke for like a minute and and they aren't getting the airtime that they deserve. So I always have to go back and edit myself.
Yeah, but that's one of the things I like about Henry Rollins too. He can go off and he could just go on and on and take the conversation where he wants to take it, because he talks for a while, and it's always interesting.
Yeah,
very interesting,
fascinating guy.
And there's nothing wrong with it in a way. If you're providing entertainment, you're providing information, whether you're doing it or the guest is doing it. Sure, the guest should be the guest of honor and all that.
Yeah,
but you're giving them the goods. You're giving them the goods.
It's called JC's Vinyl Vault.
Yes,
not
exactly.
called the JC and Guest Vinyl Vault. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
As valid as that is, I generally think that my guests have more street cred than I do.
Yeah, maybe, but but who's to say why people even listen to the show until we all do focus groups, which we won't ever do one again after the experience we had. But
There's a story I want to hear later.
Yeah, we won't talk about it. I've been court ordered not to. So the issue though is that if you don't know what people dig about your show, like obviously they like the music and obviously they want to hear certain performers, but the personality that you bring to it is the reason they tune into your show versus like some other rando show, right? Because, aside from the get, they're probably going to be on 3 or 4 other shows, in that time period. So it's like you being your interesting self kind of like pulls out something unique, I think, right?
I mean, I guess I have fun with what I do. I might be sitting down there in my basement by myself, but I am having a ton of fun.
Thank God, right? Thank God. Well, I mean, when it's not fun, it's not fun. And
no.
Yeah, and then it's just who even wants to listen to this mess, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell the difference? Like when you're listening to an interview, do you overanalyze? Like, am I enjoying this or not? Like, do you have sucky guesses? Is what I'm saying.
No, I
or guests
don't.
that do 1 or 2 word answers.
I've had people of all sorts. Some more dry than others, I will admit. But I am the type of person that's just fascinated with people that aren't me. So I will sit there and listen to a story. And continue to be fascinated with them, even if somebody else listening would have been like rolling their eyes at how dry they're being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it takes for anyone, for an interviewer, for someone going up on stage, anything, and this goes back to why we do a lot of the StageCraft. You have to have a certain sense of, for lack of a better word, egotism, but it's not really egotism, it's just sort of self-worth. And you think, you have to think that you have something that's worthwhile for the people to listen. And the way it works is usually when you get in that mode and get into that mindset, you will have something that's worthwhile. I think the shows that I've hated watching is when a performer is up there and you could tell that they're either shy or they think their music just sucks in general. But I've got another 45 minutes to play, so here's this song.
I'm just trying to get through this.
Yeah, just trying to get through this.
Self-deprecation is funny to a point, and then it starts to get uncomfortable because there's like that line between I'm being funny and I'm trying to get you to validate me, right?
True. And I think a lot of people enjoy self-deprecating humor, but it's also in the delivery of it as well. You've got to realize you have an audience that's listening. And be cognizant of, where you have to draw the line of oh, pity me versus, ha, I I mess up every once in a while.
Yeah, you can't be a negative Nancy, sad Sal. You can't, and you have to know what you're good at. Like, it's okay to be self-deprecating as long as then you can like highlight what it is you actually are decent at too.
Sure, and you could be good at that. I'm thinking like Rodney Dangerfield.
Classic.
He's good at that, and he knows he's good, but still, he slaps himself in the face every once in a while. Yes, you're listening to StageCraft, WERA FM.
Hi, I'm JC from the Vinyl Vault.
To embarrass Don for a minute, anytime someone compliments Don or refers to how Don is good at something, he will oftentimes deflect that.
Yeah, it's a natural reaction. And I've got to watch myself. I think every person who considers himself, an artist in a way. You're an artist, JC. Alex, you're an artist. Deb, you're an artist. You're doing stuff that has artistic value.
Right.
And you can't downplay it. I should say thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So Don has, I would say 99% of the time, he will say, "Oh, stop it. Oh, stop it." Mm-hmm. And then there was one time, and I think it was when the last time we had Gary Michael Smith on the show, I said, Gary and I were talking before the show, Don, and we were talking about what a great songwriter you were. And Don was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, I'm all right." It was great. So we talked about the things that you still want to accomplish, and Don asked you what you wanted to improve. I don't think you actually spoke on that. If you could give yourself a critique, like, what do you think you could be better at?
Interviewing. I think I could be better at interviewing.
What about it? Like, you talking less, but that's not...
Yeah, talking less.
Do you research? Do you do research?
I do research. I could do even more research. Sometimes it's hard when it comes to local artists versus, national artists, because, it can be hard to find write-ups that you can research. And so, you kind of, in those cases, you kind of fall back on, certain questions. Tell me how you formed the band. Who do you look up to? That kind of stuff. And so I hate being that interviewer. And I just want to improve my skills to make sure that I'm keeping them interested in answering the questions. Because sometimes I ask questions and they don't even know how to answer it. I thought it was a good question, and it was way too deep for just throwing out of nowhere.
You mean deep? Too deep?
Too deep. I've asked a question before. I'm not going to say the exact question just in case they're...
Oh, no, we have to. No, let's do
please,
it. Don's the interviewee.
Go ahead, ask me.
Let's do it.
Ask me something.
Welcome to JC and the Vinyl Vault Special Edition, inserted in StageCraft. Welcome, JC, and welcome, Don Zantara.
Hi, JC.
Hi, Don. So there's a really interesting question I want to ask you. A lot of times when I'm listening to your music, first of all, very original, but I can also really hear the inspiration from some of the early 80s punk music, like Minor Threat. And I hear it not just, or Fugazi, I hear it not just in the cadence and the rhythm of the music, but also in the way, the vocal elements of it, and the way that you're speaking. Is this something that, this is intentional? What do you think kind of drives that?
JC, I think you're full of
Beep. Beep.
No. It is. I pick up and steal things from everywhere I possibly can. I will, if you're humming, I've told one famous musician, if I hear you humming something down the hall, I will pick up on that and it'll be one of my next songs. I don't care where I'm taking it from.
There's a rumor that if you write a great riff and you forget it, that it gets to go to Don's catalog.
Exactly. It gets funneled in. I have a secret little transmitter that transmits that thing stuff.
You always have that recording going, right?
Yes, exactly. So it's there is, I think, every musician or songwriter will want to take things from different places. It's just a matter of these days, of course, the litigation, stuff like that. But it's usually there's, what was that last one that was picked up? Oh, Ed Sheeran?
Sheeran,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he was showing that, these chords, they're in millions of songs.
So I don't consider myself an expert in this realm, but most times when these cases come about, I do pay attention and try to pick out the progression. So, for example, like Blurred Lines by the Thick Boy, I can't remember his name, but the guy, Robin Thicke.
Robin Thicke, yeah.
So that is most certainly the Marvin Gaye song when you hear it, the intros.
Yeah, it's not far enough differentiated from it.
But I listen to the is it Sheeran? How do you say his name?
Sheeran.
There's no effing way. It is not, it is the same chord progression by definition. You cannot, those two songs are completely different. It is not at all the same.
My take is I think it just puts a spotlight on the people that wrote the song initially.
Hopefully it sold more records for everybody.
Yeah, it sold lots of records for everybody.
I listened to the Ed Sheeran. Is it Sheeran?
Sheeran, Ed Sheeran.
I listened to the Ed Sheeran song. I never would have listened to it before. And I watched the YouTube video. So, you got that out of me.
The whole there's no bad news or whatever it is. I just blanked on the actual.
There's no bad publicity.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes.
Yeah.
We live our life by that mantra.
Yes, exactly. Thank God, because we get a lot of it.
If it wasn't for bad publicity, we'd have no publicity at all.
Yeah. Well, I think about what people in the general public find compelling in music, and specifically pop music. And there's only so many chord progressions that the general populace all agree sound pleasant and interesting. And eventually you're going to hear the same chord progressions. You're going to hear a lot of things that sound similar. And so, we got to be careful with those types of situations like Ed Sheeran's where, it sounds vaguely similar, but not close enough to have really been fully copied.
Yes, you're listening to StageCraft, WERA FM.
Hi, I'm JC from the Vinyl Vault.
I have a question.
Deb, welcome to the show. Deb, recording a special across the hall.
Just circling back to, you talked about the relationship with the station and some of those, like what it means to be a content creator versus what it means to run the station and how they're providing a service to you. What does it mean to be on like community radio? Because we're all on WERA, which isn't just a radio station. It's like community radio. So where does the sort of listening public come into the equation?
Well, I want to just interject. You said the station is being a service to the producers?
Yes, I did say that.
I don't know. I don't agree with that.
It's a 50-50 split, I think.
I think both. You provide a service to the station through your production, but also through the tools, equipment, and resources that they provide to the content creators. They provide a service back to us. So it's kind of it's a give and take relationship.
Just symbiosis.
Yes.
Yeah, but their tools would mean nothing if it wasn't for the people who put the shows together.
Yes.
And you put that equipment in the wrong people's hands, and it's just a big pile of garbage.
Exactly.
No offense to any of the other shows. We love all the shows, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, no offense to WKRP.
Where does the public come into this? Like, what is the mission of WERA, to serve the public? Is it to serve the producers? Like, what is the whole dynamic in a?
So that's a great question, and as a community radio station, we're focused on giving a voice to the community. And the ways that we do that are several. But it's having access to the ability to record and speak up, as well as folks that are focused on what's happening in the community going out. Obviously my show is focused on music. So that's a lot of the direction that I go. But some of our other fantastic creators have other things that they focus on. Things like Aging Matters comes to top of mind.
First one that I always think of.
Yeah.
I love Cheryl's show.
Yes.
It's becoming more and more relevant to me.
Yeah. Well, I think from a community standpoint, a community radio station needs to be focused on, who is in our community first and foremost. What are they looking for? What do they need? Arlington is a great example because there is a lot of diversity. And there's all different types of neighborhoods and people that live here. And thinking about, what type of content would these individuals like to hear? I think of, the Latinx community. Do we have enough, whether it be entertainment or news or relevant topics to that community? And I know we have somebody that's working on creating a show around that. We've got a show, or at least we used to, I think it's still on there, that's focused on Ethiopian matters. And I think that's important. So thinking about what's relevant to the community and finding, kind of doing, again, I think of matchmaking of producers that are interested in helping to support, don't necessarily have a baked in idea of what they want to do or what role that they want to take. They just know they want to give back to the community. Saying, hey, what we need to show on is XYZ. Have at, and then they can produce that show or host that show. I think that's what a community radio station really does. Is it's not just about, I do have a show that's intended to entertain, but also to reflect the local community in not just Arlington, but obviously the DC metro region. That's the service that and the part that community radio plays, community TV plays, community media in general, but also just, again, going back to, what's going on in the community and how can we give a voice to that.
But at the same time, I don't know how to put this. I don't think, this is just my opinion, that it should be a direct mirror of the community. I think it should present some things that, hey, you guys missed all this stuff. Here it is.
Yeah. It's a sampling, right? I've looked at the demographics of our community, and if we just focused on what the demographics were, we wouldn't have the lush palette that is necessary to kind of introduce people to all the different types of things that go on in the community. And you can't get everything. That's too difficult. But having different niche areas that people are like, oh, I wasn't aware of that, or I didn't know that was going on, is really, really, I think, helpful. But you also, people need to be entertained too.
Yeah, it should be kind of like a bulletin board, and like you said, entertainment stuff. They haven't seen or heard before, and they could enjoy that too. Yes, you're listening to StageCraft, WERA FM.
Hi, I'm JC from the Vinyl Vault. Yeah, and if you think about Arlington, in Northern Virginia in general, this is an area that's super saturated with folks that are, I'll say more liberal leaning, folks that are really interested in taking care of different communities and learning about different communities and being open to different communities. And so
has that been your experience?
Yeah, I would say the people that I've met and mingled with. Now, I also have a career in consulting, so there are also people that are more conservative and less open. But the type of people that are drawn to community radio often have that kind of more of a liberal openness and desire to learn and be educated about different areas and things.
Not to split hairs, but maybe more world-minded versus liberal.
Yeah, you can say world-minded.
Yeah,
because
because like military people, for instance, I don't think are necessarily liberal-minded, but in my anecdotal experience, people who have been in the military definitely are more open-minded when it comes to other cultures, just based on their experience in being in the military.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't consider them to be liberal, mostly from all the guns that they own.
I hate all generalities.
I know you do, buddy. I know. Abstract concepts frustrate you to a great degree. You like specificity. But, with community radio, I think, one of the things that I've always enjoyed is trying to bring something in that people wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
Because, to take it to sort of like, and you can speak on this, Don. So, there used to be a time that putting together like a punk show was sometimes putting a band on that had a different following on the same bill of a band that didn't necessarily have the same following, and then you would sort of smash them together.
Yeah.
Was that something that would happen?
Yes, to some extent. I mean, at the very beginning, no. Because basically the punk community was a thing into itself, let's say.
Sure.
Kind of ostracized in a sense. And it was a whole cult in itself until it became not a cult into itself. But yeah, you could say that. I would say if there was anything, it was like the go-go culture in punks. But that was pretty much it.
But there was a lot of crossover with the go-go and the punk culture as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean,
Yeah.
the go-go culture and the punks, they did put together some shows, but I think it was a matter of they had the access to some of the places that punks didn't have any access to any place at
Right.
the very beginning. It's nobody wanted to put on a show. They didn't think that was entertainment. I guess I'm speaking about club owners.
Right. I find that the silos are pretty tight. But that's been my experience. When I go to a show, most of the bands sound relatively similar, and the crowds look relatively similar.
Sure.
Not to make it like when I was in Europe. So when I was in Geneva, you would go see bands, and there would be people like in their 60s and 70s going to shows with people in their teens. And there would be two wildly different bands. Because that's just kind of the way that they ran things. And it's not like that model works everywhere, but I found it fascinating because then you had sort of a commingling of cultures that you wouldn't necessarily have. But for that culture, it was something that was quite normal. It wasn't like there was a clash of culture.
Yeah, I think a lot of venues have a tendency to think about just attracting one type of audience. So they think of who is the headliner and then who complements the headliner. There's definitely been some exceptions that I've been to, particularly in the more artistic venues where they'll have a little bit more variation. And what's interesting to me is, the vast majority of folks that I've met in the punk community, at least, have interests that are all over the place. They get inspired by music that, they'll talk to me about it, and I'm like, I've never heard of that before. But I'll listen to it. It's amazing. So, I think that there are certain communities that would be more open to that than I think venues understand or recognize. But the tough part about, as we're going on in different generations is that, in the world of streaming playlists and things like that, unless somebody's intentionally going out there and creating playlists that have a lot of variety, a lot of the pre-made, playlists and, what will happen if you're just listening to one act, they'll continue to put on more and more of the same music. They recommend the same music over and over again.
The algorithm.
Yeah,
Yes.
but everyone wants a built-in audience, just like every club would love a built-in crowd. I mean, because that gives a whole,
Send in your video of the crowd going wild for you.
exactly. We'll have to work on that. Maybe dub some stuff in.
I told you we could stage it. It's easy. We could stage it. We have about 10-ish minutes to go.
Seeing the clock.
Do you want to? Can you turn the
No.
clock? Okay.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah, but can you remind everyone where to listen to your show, what time to listen to your show, and is it also available in a listen to it later form as well?
Yes. So the Vinyl Vault plays on Thursday nights and Sunday nights at 8 p.m.
2 time slots.
Yep. On 96.7 FM, WERA, obviously. And you can listen to recordings in their archives, which last 2 weeks. Or I also upload my shows to Mixcloud. And they can find nearly everything about my show, whether it's on Instagram or Mixcloud or even on Bandcamp, if people want to follow what I'm listening to. It's all under JC_ the Vinyl Vault.
Great.
We have a couple standard questions that we ask. The one would be, have you ever had an out-of-body experience?
Yes.
Can you tell us about it, please?
I was in a car accident. And I think that it felt, and it would have been a very short period of time, but I think anybody that's been in a major car accident may have that feeling where everything seems to slow down because your body and mind are paying attention to every detail. And in that moment, I felt like I was looking at myself going through this situation, like I was viewing myself either from above or from the side, and going through. I was T-boned by a semi on black ice.
Ooh.
And I've permanently messed up my knees because of it. But it was just a situation where, yeah, I had that impression or feeling that I was witnessing myself going through this versus actually going through it myself.
Were you driving?
Yes.
Wow. That must have been scary.
It was terrifying. And it was 2 days before Christmas, either one day or it was either Christmas Eve or the day before Christmas Eve.
Boy.
Have you ever written anything about it? Like a song or a story?
No. That's a good question, though. No, I haven't. I think it would make a very interesting either poem or song that could be written about it, because it was just captured in my mind, and I passed out a couple of times along the way where I blacked out when the vehicle actually hit me. And then I woke up when I was at the side of the road, and then blacked out again, I think from shock. But I think it would be an interesting story to tell in an artistic manner.
The other question seems kind of pedestrian now, but we'll go ahead and go with it anyways. When was the last time that you remember crying at a concert or a song or a movie, some sort of art?
I am one of those people that gets incredibly moved by music. And I recently did a show that was themed on cathartic music, sad music. And it was the reason why I did it then was it was the beginning of spring, and a lot of people have the winter blues. And I'm like, there's proof that when you listen to sad music, it makes you happier. And so I was like, let's get the blues out, let's shake them out, let's have a good cry. And as I was like listening along to the music as I was recording the show, a lot of times I sing along. Obviously, people don't hear that because the mic is turned off. But there are songs that when I'm singing along to them, I know all the lyrics, but I'll start getting choked up and just having a side tear or two. And
what were a
lot
couple
of that music
of
was.
What were a couple of songs? I'd be interested to know.
Oh man. Here's one from the 70s, a soft rock hit, Seasons in the Sun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Gosh, what's another one? There's so many songs that are just, I can't remember the name for it. Starts with an S. But there's a sensation that you have that kind of crawls up your backbone and gives you the shivers and gives you goose pimples.
Absolutely.
And that's the type of music that a lot of times does that. I think.
I'm Desperado by the Eagles. Usually I'll have a couple drinks,
Yeah.
and then I start listening. It's at 10:30 at night, and then I'll just start crying, absolutely crying. And Time After Time by Cyndi Lauper.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one.
And a lot of those share the same arpeggiations that run through them, which is I think it definitely pulls out the emotions.
Yeah, I think there's certain, especially minor chords that get people going and get them to feel a lot of feeling, but also instrumentation, like a good violin that's inserted into a song. Man, oh man, that'll get me going. Or when you take out and strip down instrumentation and it's mostly just like a piano or an acoustic guitar. Again, those will get me going. So yeah, it's a lot of different things.
Well, I do believe we are out of time. And this has been a wonderful StageCraft with JC of the Vinyl Vault, which you should check out Thursdays, 7 p.m., and Sundays when?
8 p.m. actually for both.
Oh, I blew it. Sundays at 8 p.m., Thursdays at 8 p.m., and of course the archive is available on Mix.
Start over again because we need a clean one.
No, warts and all.
That's the warts and all.
Warts and all. And JC, thank you so much for being an amazing guest. You are my favorite JC walking the earth at this moment.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and thank you for having me. I enjoyed the time.